So Joe Clifford once heard somebody say that there aren't any handsome writers since Kerouac was around, and he said, fuck that, so he became a writer himself. So this says, Joe Clifford is acquisitions editor for Gutter Books, managing editor of the Flash Fiction Offensive, and producer of the killer Lip Service West. If you've not been, you should go. A gritty, real, raw, in quotations on the paper, reading series in Oakland, California. Also a goddamn liar, it's right here in Berkeley, California, but Oakland sounds real, raw, and grittier, doesn't it? Joe's the author of 4 books, Choice Cuts, Junkie Love, Wake the Undertaker, and Lamentation, as well as editor of Trouble in the Heartland, crime stories based on the songs of Bruce Springsteen. Joe's writing can be found at joeclifford.com. And now the handsomest goddamn noir writer in the East Bay, Mr. Joe Clifford.
So this piece feels appropriate for a couple of reasons. Parasites seem to be a theme of the day. We found a jelly bean-sized tick in our bed this morning. It fell off our dog, and I'm not comparing a parasite to Rob. It's totally separate. But this story, which features a parasite, is also a testament to the life of the writer. And getting a book published, the number one attribute you need to have, besides the talent and all that stuff, is the persistence, because it's mostly a field defined by degrees of rejection. So congratulations, Rob, for sticking around long enough to survive to the finish line. This is the prize. Every time this piece would get rejected, I would change the title. It's called, in its current published form, Unpublished Manuscript number 36, which will tell you how many times I sent this out. It features a voiceover from the TV set. So what I usually do when I read this is I change my voice, but I figure I might as well just have Joel Landmine, who played me in the movie version of my very short life, to read the voiceover, if you wouldn't mind, the highlights section.
Absolutely.
Kitty peeled dead flies off the screen. She squinted in the direction of the boatyard. No boats today, she muttered to herself. A late-season heat wave had brought a constant haze that made it hard to see over the bay. A few feet behind her, Jimmy lay on the skinny bed, hands behind his head, eyes transfixed on the tiny television. He was watching a program about botflies on PBS. The sound was turned down low, but he could still hear it. He could still see the victims, their arms red and inflamed from infection, the after effect of larvae gestating and hatching under the skin. Kitty turned from the door and sat at the small round motel table. She picked up a book of matches and began lighting them one after the other, burning each down to her fingers before letting them drop. On the first floor below, excited kids raced along the boardwalk, anxious to beat their parents to the beach. Kitty tried to appear preoccupied by the little fires in her hand until all the matches were burned out. I spoke with my folks the other day, she said. I don't know what you expect me to tell them. I mean, what do you do for a living? Kitty examined her fingernails, crossed and then uncrossed her legs. She bit off a piece of dead skin from her fingertips. Oh, that's right, you're a writer. You know, Jimmy, I'm pretty sure to be a writer, you have to actually write once in a while. I mean, I know you don't think I'm very smart, but I do know that.
At first, the painful bite is indistinguishable from a common bee sting or horsefly bite.
But then again, Jimmy, you don't really do anything, do you? You don't even have a drinking problem. Aren't all writers supposed to have drinking problems?
The egg deposited, the botfly uses pointed mouth hooks to bore deep down through the skin.
Ever since he was a kid, Jimmy had been terrified of parasites. He found the very small in this life much more unsettling than the very big. When Jimmy left college to try to make it on his own as a writer, he found that money runs out fast. And because he wouldn't work, citing the severe time constraint a day job would place upon his art, eventually he was forced to take shelter down at the Bowery. There he met a guy with scabies. It wasn't the empty stomach, it wasn't the squalor alone, it wasn't the slew of rejection letters that made him quit that first time, it was the scabies that made him move back home. Hey Jimmy, didn't Hemingway have a drinking problem? I mean, I know I didn't go to college or nothing, but I know Hemingway drank a lot.
Doing heavy damage to muscle tissue, the larva feeds off its immobilized host.
And who's the other guy you like so much? What's his name? The faggot? The one that wrote that movie? I know he had a drinking problem. The far-off grind of trucks making a final downshift before speeding up to get on the freeway blew in with salt-flavored winds from the beach. It came through the screen door, the heartbreaking sounds of diesel engines and seagulls. Kitty scratched her head, tugged at the dirty sun-bleached hair, and stood up. She straightened the towel she had wrapped around her waist and, peering over her shoulder, lifted up the back of it, swatting off any dust that might be on her backside. "I'm going down to the beach," she said, no longer sounding annoyed. She snatched her little square purse off the television, knocking the oversized motel key to the floor. At the sink in the back of the room, Kitty grabbed a wicker bag from the open closet, the bright lights unflattering. She didn't bother with a mirror. She threw some belongings into her bag and walked out the door. Jimmy didn't look up, not even when he heard the screen door slam or when he heard the squeal of brakes. He didn't look up when an ice cream truck passed by or when a girl shouted something in the distance about a no-talent, impotent fuck as she walked along the boardwalk on her way to the beach. Jimmy was mesmerized by the botflies. He wondered how such a tiny bug could bring about so much devastation. Thanks.